Right then, let's start tonight with IMF's managing director, Christine Lagarde. She is on trial for her role in a $425 million state payout to a businessman, Bernard Tapie. Now, this goes all the way back to 2008 and in some respects even further back. But in 2008, Madame Lagarde was France's finance minister. Tapie is a French businessman with connections to the then president, Nicolas Sarkozy. The case has cast a rare shadow over Lagarde, who's widely respected in policy circles for helping the IMF turn the page. Her predecessor, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, resigned in 2011, facing charges of sexual assault. Lagarde was France's finance minister between 2007 and 2011. She could face up to a year in jail and a fine of about $16,000 or so if she is convicted.
She is very determined to defend herself step by step. She will be present in this trial. Despite the scale of her role as Director General of the IMF, she will be there to answer questions and to explain herself. She is truly determined and ready to show that these accusations of negligence only exist in the minds of the investigating magistrates.
Let's get the latest developments now live from Paris. Elena Casas joins me now from that city. Elena, what were the opening arguments in court today?
Well, we saw a very confident and very relaxed Christine Lagarde in court this afternoon. Her lawyers essentially have two key arguments. One is that she can't be held responsible for negligence in this case because it's the people around her who were negligent rather than Lagarde herself. So essentially the lawyers are saying that as finance minister she had a lot of different responsibilities. She had to rely on her advisors. And some of those advisors didn't give her the right information at the right time to enable her to make the best possible decision. The other thing, of course, is that she's one of 5 people who've been implicated in this case, and her lawyers essentially are saying that she's being asked to take the rap for other people who had a much stronger implication in the decision to award that out-of-court arbitration settlement to Bernard Tapie. So essentially they're saying the buck shouldn't stop with her. Her lawyers want a separate criminal trial from around the question of whether there was the misuse of public funds in this case to conclude before, they say, her case can properly be judged.
Indeed. The appeals court had thrown out the decision from that arbitration that Madame Lagarde had ordered as finance minister. What were the arguments used in arriving to that decision, and does that in turn have a bearing on this trial?
Well, the appeals court concluded several years ago that Bernard Tapie did not have the right to this money that he was awarded in an out-of-court settlement. Now, Lagarde's lawyers aren't arguing that he did deserve that money or even really that it was the right decision to take it to an out-of-court arbitration. They're simply saying that the buck shouldn't stop with her, that it wasn't a case of her negligence. Yes, she did sign off on this payment, but they're saying, as I was saying, that she wasn't given the correct information, and that, more importantly, that she didn't intend to deliberately intervene in favour of the businessman Bernard Tapie. Now, he is quite a colourful public figure who's very well known in France. He was once a politician in the south in Marseille back in the 1980s, and a close personal friend of Nicolas Sarkozy, who of course was president at the time that he was awarded this payout in 2008. But nobody is alleging necessarily that Lagarde had a personal relationship with him, and what her lawyers are extremely keen to emphasise is that in her case, this was simply a mishap, if you like. It was her counsel acknowledged a bad decision. She acknowledges that, but that it wasn't deliberately negligent and that she wasn't deliberately intervening in his favour.
Indeed. One last question for you. The IMF's managing director, as we understand, is being tried in a special court for ministers. This is, as I understand it, the 5th such trial to actually take place in French history. How exactly does this court work, and what's the rationale for its establishment? Why not just prosecute the minister in the court system like every other French citizen?
Well, this court, the High Court of Justice of the Republic, was only founded in 1993 to deal with allegations involving the then Prime Minister, and as you say, it's only the 5th case ever heard. It's a very special tribunal which is only intended to hear cases of criminal offences allegedly committed by government ministers in the exercise of their jobs. So if they were to commit a completely irrelevant criminal offence, like the former budget minister Jérôme Cahuzac, who was jailed last week for tax fraud, he was tried in a completely ordinary criminal court. She's in this court because this case is deliberately, particularly relates to her work as a government minister, and therefore it's being tried in a separate court which has a rather unusual jury. It's actually a team of 12 politicians who are across the political spectrum and 5 judges who will be judging her rather than judges as would normally be the case.
Indeed. Fascinating developments over here. Thank you very much for that. That's Elena Casas live in Paris with the Eiffel Tower, of course, being very colourful in the background.